Imagine, imagine for a second that you are standing in the pitch black of a freezing root cellar.
Oh, man, yeah.
Right. The air is damp. It's smelling of old soil and, well, decay. And you are a man who has just committed an act so horrific, I mean, so physically grotesque that it has completely fractured your mind.
It's just completely broken you.
Exactly. You're trembling. You are covered in dirt. And echoing in your ears is a sound that will literally never stop playing on a loop in your head.
The bones.
Yeah, the wet, muffled sound of a newborn baby's bones crunching under a heavy wooden board.
It's just so visceral.
It really is. And as you stand there, completely unraveling in the dark, realizing that you have just destroyed your own soul, your mother turns to you.
Right.
And she's perfectly calm. She's holding a lantern illuminating the dirt, and she whispers to you, Mother Earth will not blab.
It is an incredibly difficult image to shake, you know? You have this binary collision happening right there in the cellar.
Yeah, totally.
You have the total mental, emotional, and spiritual collapse of a man who suddenly comprehends the reality of his own evil. And that is contrasted violently against the cold, almost bureaucratic calmness of the woman who orchestrated it.
Bureaucratic is the perfect word for it.
Right. She treats murder like sweeping dust under a rug. It's just a logistical problem to her.
Right. It's not just a murder scene. It's a terrifying look at what happens when two completely different moral universes occupy the exact same physical space.
Exactly.
And that visceral, deeply upsetting moment is exactly the destination for our deep dive today. We're looking at a transcript of an audiobook of Leo Tolstoy's play, The Power of Darkness.
Also known by its much creepier subtitle, right?
The subtitle is infinitely creepier and much more descriptive. It's called, If a Claw is Caught, the Bird is Lost.
Which is, I mean, it's an incredibly evocative metaphor for what we're going to explore today. Because the mission for today isn't just to recap a bleak 19th century Russian drama. We are going to use Tolstoy's text to conduct a really profound philosophical analysis of the human condition.
Yeah, we want to examine the exact anatomy of a moral trap. You know?
Yeah.
How does a relatively normal, everyday person slip into absolute darkness?
And we'll look at the corrupting, acidic influence of wealth, too.
Yes.
Plus, the systemic roots of ignorance that lock people into these horrible lives, and ultimately the crushing, inescapable weight of the human conscience.
So let's lay out the board for you before we start moving the pieces. We are in a miserable, muddy Russian village.
Very muddy, very bleak.
Very bleak. The play centers around a household run by a wealthy but very sick and dying peasant named Peter.
Right.
Peter is married to his second wife, Anisia. She is much younger than him, she is terribly unhappy, and frankly, she's exhausted from waiting for this man to die.
She's just done.
Yeah, completely done. And then we have Nikita, their hired laborer. He's 25, he's charming, he loves dressing well, and he is profoundly, almost pathologically lazy.
The pathologically lazy is a good way to put it. And orbiting this very unstable core triangle, we have a fascinating cast of enablers and victims.
Right, let's talk about him.
There's Nikita's parents. First, his mother, Matrona, who is a mastermind of manipulative, pragmatic survival. I mean, she is a woman who views morality as a luxury she just cannot afford.
Yeah, she is terrifying.
She really is. Then there's his father, Akim, a stuttering, deeply God-fearing peasant who believes purely in honest, grueling labor.
Total contrast to Matrona.
Exactly. We also have Marina, an orphan girl that Nikita seduced and discarded. And finally, we have the ultimate collateral damage, the children.
Right, the kids always suffer.
Always. Peter's teenage daughter, Akulina, who is described in the text as mentally undeveloped and hard of hearing, and the 10-year-old girl, Nan.
It is a total powder keg of a household. And the match that lights it isn't some grand, theatrical, mustache-twirling villainy, you know.
No, not at all.
It is exactly what that subtitle warns about. A tiny, almost imperceptible claw getting caught in a snare. Let's break down the mechanics of this trap.
Let's do it.
In Act 1, we see the beginning of Nikita's descent. But he doesn't start out as a monster, does he?
No, and that's the crucial philosophical point Tolstoy is making about the nature of evil. Nikita is not depicted as a malicious mastermind.
Right.
When we meet him, he's just a passive, vain guy. He likes to play his concertina, he likes when the village women fuss over his clothes, and he actively avoids hard work.
He's coasting.
Yeah, he's just coasting through life.
He's a total loafer. Even the dying Peter says of him, if I were well, I'd not keep him on no account, won't stir a finger if he can help it.
Exactly.
Nikita just wants the path of least resistance. So he wronged this orphan girl, Marina. He promised to marry her and then tossed her aside when things got complicated.
Right, he just bails.
Yeah. But when his father, the highly moral Akim, confronts him about abandoning this girl, Nikita does something that seals his fate. He casually lies.
And not just a little white lie to dodge an awkward conversation.
No.
He crosses himself before the holy icon in the family house and swears to God that he had nothing to do with her.
That is the claw catching the wire right there.
Yes. The moment he takes that false oath, the entire fabric of his morality begins to fray. Nikita even recognizes it internally.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, he admits to himself later in the text, "Yet how strange it felt when I crossed myself before the icon. It was just as if someone shoved me, the whole web fell to pieces at once."
Oh, wow. So he feels the shift.
He feels it. But then, and this is the fatal flaw, he immediately rationalizes it away, saying, they say it's frightening to swear what's not true. That's all humbug. It's all talk.
Wow. He just waves away his own conscience because listening to it would be inconvenient.
Exactly. It's easier to ignore it.
But I want to understand the mechanical link here. Why does a lie about a girl make him an accessory to murder?
That's the big question.
Right. How do we get from point A to point B? Because on the surface, those seem like two entirely different weight classes of sin, you know?
It comes down to the mechanics of complicity and leverage. By taking the easy way out and lying to his father, Nikita creates a moral vacuum.
Okay.
And he makes himself completely vulnerable to his mother, Matrona. Matrona knows the truth about Marina. She knows Nikita is lying.
So she has dirt on him.
Yes. And by stepping in to handle the Marina situation for him, by paying people off and covering his tracks, she gains ultimate leverage over him.
Ah, so it's like a mom favor.
Exactly, like a mob favor.
The moment you let someone else bury your mistakes, you owe them. You're compromised.
Yes. While Nikita is passive, Matrona is terrifyingly proactive. She practices a ruthless utilitarian pragmatism.
Right, she's always looking for the angle.
Always. She sees that the young wife, Anisia, is desperately in love with Nikita. She sees that the old husband, Peter, is dying, but taking way too long to actually die.
So she speeds things up.
She does.
Yeah.
Matrona brings Anisia a sleeping draught and some medicinal powders. Poison.
Just casual poison.
Right. She tells Anisia, he's neither alive nor dead as it is. See if you don't bury him before the spring, then you'll need someone in the house.
She charges a ruble for the poison. A single ruble.
It's so cheap.
And she covers her own tracks flawlessly.
Yeah.
She hands over the powders and immediately says, I know nothing, I'm aware of nothing, I'll kiss the cross on it, I never give you any kind of powders.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. She is outsourcing the physical act of murder to Anisia while ensuring her own son, Nikita, ends up inheriting the wealth.
It's a masterclass in manipulation.
It really is. But let me push back on this idea of Nikita being trapped for a second. Is he really just a passenger here?
Well,
I mean, he knows what his mother's doing. He knows what Anisia's doing. If he knows, isn't he making an active choice to let it happen?
that's a great point. Tolstoy is making a profound argument here about the nature of sin. Passivity in the face of evil is an active endorsement of it.
Ah, so inaction is an action.
Exactly. Nikita doesn't mix the poison himself, but he literally tells Anisia that Peter's money is hidden under the floorboards so she can steal it while the old man is agonizing in his final moments.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. His great sin is his lack of resistance. Listen to his worldview. This is a direct quote. He says, "What's the good of making plans? What do I care if the wenches run after me? It's not my fault that's flat."
It's not my fault that's flat.
Mhm.
He refuses to take ownership of his existence.
Right. He just lets his mother and his lover do the dirty work because the outcome benefits him.
He gets to be the master of the house, he gets the money, he gets the comfort, and his hands are technically clean of the poison.
But the snare has snapped shut. Because he accepted his mother's cover-up of his affair, he is morally indebted to her.
He's caught.
He's caught. When she sets up the murder, he cannot object without exposing his own hypocrisy. He is swallowed whole by these compromises.
A terrifying thought for anyone listening, honestly.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
How many small passive compromises do we make every day just to avoid conflict? When do those compromises add up to a loss of the self?
That's a heavy question.
It is. And the source material argues that once you compromise your soul for wealth, that wealth acts as an accelerant to your decay.
It really pours gasoline on the fire.
Which brings us to a fascinating, entirely different philosophical debate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move forward 9 months. Peter is dead. Nikita has inherited everything. He is the master.
Air quotes around master.
Exactly. But what is he actually doing with this blood money?
He is squandering it in the most grotesque ways possible. Act 3 shows us a Nikita who has been completely hollowed out by unearned wealth.
Just totally corrupted.
Yeah, he is buying French shawls and velveteen coats, but he's not buying them for his wife Anisia, the woman who literally murdered her husband to give him this life.
Wait, who's he buying them for?
He's buying them for his stepdaughter, Akulina, whom he is now openly having an affair with.
Oh my God. It is incredibly bleak. The power dynamic has entirely shifted. Anisia, who committed the ultimate transgression out of supposed love for Nikita, is now just a nuisance to him. She tells a neighbor, he goes for me and is ready to trample me under his feet.
Yeah, and Nikita, who used to be a harmless loafer, is now corrupted by absolute power.
He boasts to Anisia, I love who I like, the power is mine, she's under me, that's where I keep her. And he points to his boots.
The wealth has just dissolved his humanity, and this sets the stage for one of the most intense debates in the entire transcript.
Yes, I love this part.
It's a clash between Mitrich, an old, cynical ex-soldier who now works as a laborer for Nikita, and Akim, Nikita's deeply religious, impoverished father.
Right, so Akim comes to the house to ask his son for a small loan to buy a horse.
Right? Yeah, and he finds Nikita drunk, flaunting this stolen wealth.
And this leads into a conversation between Mitrich and Akim about the banking system that is absolutely wild to read today.
It's incredibly relevant.
Mitrich, the soldier, explains to Akim how a bank works. He says you put money in the bank, go to sleep, and the money feeds you. He explains the mechanics of usury, how the bank lends that money to a desperate peasant who needs seeds for the spring planting, and then squeezes the extra 3 rubles out of him in the autumn until the peasant is clean shorn.
Mitrich is outlining the foundational concept of modern capitalism, interest, generating capital from capital.
Yeah.
But Akim's reaction is what's fascinating. He is utterly repulsed by the concept.
He hates it.
He calls it filthy and a sin. He says, God told us to work you, put money into the bank, and go to sleep, and the money will feed you while you sleep. It's filthy.
Wow.
He argues that money must represent physical labor. It's not a living thing. It shouldn't breed more money while a man sits doing nothing.
Okay, I have to jump in and defend the modern world here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't Akim just being incredibly naive? I mean, Mitrich is describing the engine of the global economy. Without banks lending money, the peasant doesn't get the seeds for the spring, the crops don't grow, and everyone starves.
Sure, that's the practical side.
Right. Isn't Akim's moral purity actually just a luxury he can't afford?
That's the utilitarian argument, sure. But Tolstoy, speaking through Akim, is arguing something much deeper about the human spirit.
Okay, what is it?
Akim represents a pure, agrarian, moral absolute. For Tolstoy, labor is a divine mandate that connects a human being to the earth and to their fellow man.
It keeps you grounded.
Literally grounded. The manipulation of capital, making money from money without physical struggle, creates an artificial, dangerous distance. When you bypass honest labor, you bypass empathy.
Ah, so it's about alienation.
Yes, exactly. When Mitrich says that's just how the world works, Akim replies, yes, seems the time's growing ripe there. I've had a look at the closets in town, what they've come to. It's all polished, and what's it all for? Oh, they've forgotten God.
He equates the polish with losing touch with reality.
Right. Akim views the accumulation of capital as a literal offense against the divine order because it isolates people in polished closets away from the dirt and the struggle of real life.
That makes me think of a video game analogy. Yeah, if you're playing a survival game where you have to chop wood and mine stone to build a shelter, the struggle is the game.
Right.
It connects you to the environment. But if you discover a cheat code that just gives you infinite resources, suddenly you have a massive castle. But the game is ruined.
It becomes boring.
It becomes meaningless. You stop caring about the world around you. Akim sees interest in unearned wealth as breaking the moral rules of human existence.
I see where you're going with the cheat code idea, but let's push it further. In a video game, the cheat code just ruins your fun. In Tolstoy's world, the cheat code destroys your empathy for others who are still struggling.
Oh, that's true.
Nikita used a cheat code, murder and theft, to bypass the struggle, and the result is that he now views other human beings as objects to be trampled under his boots.
Right, because he didn't earn his position.
Exactly. Akim sees this exact corruption in his son. When Nikita drunkenly tries to force a 10-ruble note onto his father, Akim violently refuses it.
He rejects the money entirely.
He says, I see my son to ruin. You're in your riches, same as in a net. You're in a net. I mean, Nikita, it's the soul that God needs.
Akim literally chooses to sleep outside in the freezing snow rather than accept his son's corrupted money. It's an incredible stand.
It's a powerful moment.
But here is the terrifying counterpoint to Akim's philosophy. If the men in this society are being corrupted by money and power, what happens to the women who aren't even allowed to understand what money or power is?
That's the real tragedy here.
Who bears the brunt of this moral decay? That takes us to a scene that is honestly one of the most haunting things I've ever read.
We are moving into Act 4 and the concept of the epistemology of the oppressed.
Pause right there. Epistemology. Let's break that word down for the listener before we get into the scene because it's vital.
Of course. Epistemology is the philosophical study of knowledge. It asks, how do we know what we know? What are the limits of our understanding, and how is that understanding shaped by our environment? In this scene, Tolstoy explores what happens to a person's morality when their epistemology, their framework for understanding reality, is deliberately stunted by the society they live in.
Okay, with that in mind, let's set the scene. It is the middle of the night. A horrific event is unfolding out in the dark yard.
Right, the baby.
Yeah. Akulina, the teenage stepdaughter, is giving birth to Nikita's illegitimate child, and the family is secretly preparing to dispose of it.
So dark.
But inside the house, hiding on top of the large, warm, flat brick baking oven, are two characters. The drunken ex-soldier Mitrich and the 10-year-old girl Nan.
They're just hiding up there.
They're huddled together in terror, listening to the muffled screams from outside.
It's an incredibly claustrophobic setup. Nan is terrified. She begs Mitrich to leave the lantern on, saying she needs it, if only as big as a mouse's eye.
She just needs a tiny bit of light.
Yeah. She doesn't know exactly what is happening in the yard, but she senses the profound evil of it. And Mitrich, who has seen the horrors of war and the brutality of the world, tries to comfort her.
But he doesn't really succeed, does he?
No, he ends up delivering this incredibly bleak philosophical soliloquy about the plight of women in Russia.
He lays out a devastating critique of systemic ignorance. He tells Nan, there are many millions of the likes of you in Russia, and all is blind as moles, knowing nothing.
Blind as moles.
He details how peasant women are deliberately kept entirely ignorant of the broader world of real faith, of everything except silly songs and superstitions.
Right, he talks about how they try to cure sick children by putting them under the perches in a hen house or washing them in magical spring water.
Because they literally have no other framework for understanding medicine or science.
Think about the philosophical allegory of Plato's cave.
Well, sure.
People are chained in a cave facing a blank wall. They only see shadows cast by a fire behind them, so they believe the shadows are the entirety of reality.
All right, they don't know the outside world exists.
But Mitrich is describing a scenario that is far worse than Plato's cave. It's not just that these women only see shadows, it's that society actively punishes them with violence if they try to turn around and look at the fire.
They're beaten down for trying to learn?
Exactly. They are treated as livestock. Mitrich says, a peasant woman, what is she? Just mud.
If your environment is a cage, and the only feedback you get is a beating, how can you be expected to develop a moral compass?
You can't.
Mitrich says, for a recruit, the drill sergeant or the corporal has to answer. But for the likes of you, there's no one responsible, just as the cattle that have no herdsmen are the most mischievous.
He's talking about structural disparity. Who is responsible for the morality of the oppressed?
This is where Tolstoy forces the reader, or you, the listener, into a deeply uncomfortable corner.
Very uncomfortable.
We look at Anisia, who poisoned her husband. We look at Akulina, who is vicious and petty, and we are horrified by them.
Right, natural.
But Mitrich forces us to ask, how can a society judge the morality of its women when it has deliberately blinded them?
Mitrich says, they're like blind puppies creeping about and poking their noses into the dung heap.
That imagery is rough.
He tells man that no one teaches them anything except a tipsy peasant with the strap.
I want to throw this question out to anyone listening right now. Think about your own life, your own workplace, your own family dynamics.
Yeah, apply it to yourself.
How much of your goodness is just a luxury of your environment? If you are put in Anisia's position, forced into a loveless marriage as a teenager with an old, dying man, treated like literal mud, completely uneducated, with no legal rights and no escape, Would you have the moral fortitude to resist the poison powders?
It's hard to say yes, honestly.
She was put in a cage and prodded with a stick, and society is shocked when she finally bites.
It is a profound tragedy of circumstance. Their entire reality is constrained by violence and subjugation.
It really is.
And the most heartbreaking punctuation to this scene is the 10-year-old Nan. Amidst all this darkness, as Mitrich explains that she is doomed to be a blind mole like the rest of them, Nan clutches him and proudly declares, "But Daddy, I do know. I know half the Lord's Prayer."
Oh man, that line.
Yeah.
She thinks knowing half a prayer will somehow act as a magical shield against the profound darkness engulfing her own family.
She's just a kid trying to feel safe.
She thinks it will save her from the bogeyman, but the bogeyman is her own mother and stepfather. And unfortunately for Nan, that systemic ignorance, that complete moral decay, doesn't stay abstract.
No, it gets very real.
It culminates in the play's most horrific sequence. The moment where these philosophical ideas about guilt stop being theories and become viscera and blood.
We reach the climax of Act 4, the cellar murder.
Here we go.
Akulina has given birth to Nikita's child. Matrona and Anisia know that to hide the shame and to successfully marry Akulina off for a dowry to another family, the baby must disappear.
It's just a problem to solve for them.
So they force Nikita to murder the newborn by taking it down into the root cellar and crushing it under a board.
Let's look really closely at the differing approaches to this murder, because it highlights the distinct moral universes we talked about at the very beginning.
Absolutely.
First, you have Matrona, the ultimate utilitarian. To her, this baby isn't a human being, it is a logistical obstacle.
Right.
She says, "It's a living soul indeed, why it's more dead than alive. And what's one to do with it? Go and take it to the foundlings, it will die just the same, and the rumor will get about."
She believes morality is strictly about what you can get away with socially.
As long as nobody finds out, it's fine.
Yeah. Her most chilling line, the one we open with, is when she tells Nikita to bury it because Mother Earth will not blab.
Matrona represents pure, pragmatic evil. The ends justify the means, and the earth will absorb the sins.
But then you have Anisia, who approaches the murder from a place of vengeful nihilism.
She's just angry.
So angry. She is enraged that Nikita has mistreated her and flaunted his affair with the Tulina. When Nikita hesitates to kill the baby, Anisia explodes at him.
She really lets him have it.
She yells at his mother, "He's trampled on me, he and his slut, but it's enough. I'm not going to be the only one. Let him also be a murderer. Then he'll know how it feels."
That is such a dark psychological turn. She wants to drag him into hell with her.
Yes.
She forces the baby into his arms, smother it, and then it won't be alive, she screams at him. She is weaponizing guilt.
And then we have Nikita himself. And this is where the existential break happens. Nikita goes down into the dark cellar, and when he comes back up, he is entirely physically and mentally shattered.
We need to talk about the phenomenology of guilt here.
Okay, time out again. Phenomenology, another big word. What are we talking about in this context?
Yeah, let me define it. Phenomenology is the study of conscious experience from the first-person point of view. It's not about the objective facts of an event. It's about how that event feels and is perceived by the person experiencing it.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
For Nikita, his passivity is finally destroyed by sensory reality. He can no longer say, "What do I care? It's not my fault."
Because he's doing the act.
Yes, the physical, tactile act of murder shatters his psychological defenses. He comes out of the cellar trembling, crying out, "What have they made me do? How it whimpered, how the little bones crunched under me grieres er I. I'm not a man now."
The text is so incredibly intense. He literally stops his ears with his hands. He keeps hearing the whining. He tells his mother, "It seems my time has come."
And I want to pause and really analyze this. Is Nikita feeling true spiritual repentance in this moment? Or is this just the biological trauma of committing a violent act?
That's a fascinating distinction.
Let me float an analogy. I think about it like a high-end alarm system in a house.
Okay, I'm with you.
Before this, Nikita's conscience was unarmed. He could lie, he could enable his wife to poison her husband, and the alarm didn't go off because he was disconnected from the physical act.
Where he was passive.
But the tactile reality of crushing a baby tripped the wire, and now this alarm is blaring in his head, and it cannot be unplugged, and it cannot be muffled. It is deafening him to the outside world.
I like the alarm analogy, but let's consider the alternative. A house alarm is designed to bring help. It's designed to bring the police to save you.
That's true.
Nikita's internal alarm is designed to isolate him from everyone else. The breach isn't a burglar. The breach is his own soul tearing apart.
Wow, yeah.
He is experiencing guilt not as a concept, but as an inescapable physical sensation. He says, I am lost. Lost. What have they done with me? Where shall I go?
And Matrona, of course, completely fails to understand this.
Oh, she has no idea what he's going through.
Her pragmatic mind cannot comprehend a wounded soul. She offers him the most chillingly banal advice possible. She says, have a drop, honey. When the day breaks, you'll forget even to think of it.
Have a drop of drink and you'll forget you crushed a baby. It is staggering how disconnected she is from human empathy.
She assumes that time and secrecy are all you need to heal a wound. But Nikita's internal alarm bell just keeps ringing. The claw is fully caught, the bird is lost, and the cage is rapidly shrinking.
He's trapped.
The guilt is literally driving him insane. And this brings us to the final act of the play, and the profound, inevitable clash between human law and divine truth.
Right. So Act 5 takes place sometime later on Akulina's wedding day. Matrona's pragmatic plan has ostensibly worked.
They pulled it off.
They have successfully hidden the murder, they found a suitor who wants Akulina's dowry, and a massive wedding feast is happening inside the house. Everyone is celebrating.
But Nikita isn't.
No, Nikita cannot participate. The alarm is still blaring in his mind. He has isolated himself out in the barn, entirely consumed by suicidal ideation.
You've gotten that bad.
Yeah, he takes a rope, throws it over a heavy wooden rafter, and prepares to make a noose. He says to himself, I'm devoured by misery. Misery is eating me up completely. I'd have got over any sorrow, but this, now here it is deep in my heart, and I can't get over it.
He is standing on the absolute edge. He feels nothing but absolute despair.
And then he is saved by the most unlikely person in the most unlikely way.
Who is it?
Mitrich, the cynical ex-soldier from the oven, stumbles into the barn. Mitrich is completely blindly drunk.
Of course he is.
He has fallen off the wagon hard. He falls into the straw, grabs the rope Nikita was going to use to hang himself, and refuses to let it go.
Just accidental intervention.
Exactly. And then Mitrich goes on this drunken, slurring rant that accidentally hands Nikita the key to his salvation.
It is a brilliant structural pivot by Tolstoy. Mitrich, in his drunken bravado, starts declaring his absolute fearlessness.
Right.
He says he isn't afraid of the army sergeants who flogged him. He isn't afraid of the police. He isn't afraid of anyone. I fear no man, he slurs. Why fear such muck as they are? You look at them in the bathhouse, all made of one paste. I can spit in the devil's beard.
I can spit in the devil's beard. He's basically saying, look at human beings without their uniforms and their titles. We are all just meat. We are all made of the same paste. Why should you fear the judgment of other pieces of meat?
And you can practically see the light bulb go off over Nikita's head. He crosses himself and says, true enough. What was I about?
The spell is broken.
Mitrich's drunken philosophy makes Nikita realize that the judgment of society, the police, the village elders, the public shame, is absolutely meaningless compared to the judgment of his own soul.
This realization catalyzes the climax of the play.
Yeah.
It is the triumph of moral law over social law.
Yes.
Nikita realizes that suicide is just another evasion. Hanging himself is just another way of hiding in the dark cellar, just like his mother wanted.
It's the coward's way out for him.
Right. True redemption demands stepping into the light, regardless of the worldly consequences. So Nikita takes off his boots.
He goes barefoot.
He walks barefoot out of the barn and into the crowded, brightly lit wedding feast. He falls to his knees before the entire village, the Christian commune, as he calls them.
Imagine, sitting in that room, everyone is drinking, singing, eating bread. The police officer is there, the village elder is there.
And in walks Nikita.
And Nikita walks in, looking like a ghost, barefoot and hollow-eyed. He bows to the ground before Marina, the girl he wronged way back in Act 1, and begs her forgiveness.
Full circle.
Then he turns to his stepdaughter, Akulina, and publicly confesses to poisoning her father. His mother, Matrona, starts screaming that he's crazy, that he's bewitched.
She's trying to do damage control.
And Anisia is yelling at him to shut up. They are desperately trying to shove the genie back in the bottle.
But he refuses to be silenced. He confesses to ruining Akulina, and then, the ultimate horror, he says it out loud in front of the authorities. I smothered the baby in the cellar with a board and I buried it.
Wow.
And here is where we see the ultimate clash of institutions. The moment the confession is out of his mouth, the police officer immediately steps forward.
The law steps in.
He says, seize him and send for the elder. We must draw up an indictment and have witnesses to it. The machinery of state law, of human justice, instantly kicks into gear to process the crime and generate paperwork.
But then Akim, Nikita's father, the stuttering, pure-hearted peasant who refused the dirty money earlier.
Yeah.
Akim steps in front of the police officer.
He blocks the cop.
He physically blocks the cop and says, "Wait, don't talk about indictments here. Here, God's work is being done. A man is confessing." That gives me chills every time I read it.
It is so powerful.
Akim doesn't give a damn about the police or the jail. He is witnessing a spiritual resurrection, and the law of man is just getting in the way.
It is a profound philosophical statement. Tolstoy is arguing that true redemption exists entirely outside the framework of human justice and legality.
Right, the law doesn't matter here.
The police officer wants an indictment. Akim wants a saved soul. When Nikita finishes his confession, asking his father for forgiveness, admitting he didn't listen when Akim warned him about the claw getting caught, Akim embraces him rapturously.
He forgives him.
He says, "God will forgive you, my own son. You have had no mercy on yourself. He will show mercy on you."
You have had no mercy on yourself. The true prison wasn't the threat of going to a literal jail. The true prison was the secrecy itself, the guilt.
The internal prison.
Think about a person trapped on the top floor of a burning building who realizes the only way out is to leap through a heavy glass window.
Right, you're gonna get hurt.
The cut of the glass, which represents social ruin, public shame, going to a Siberian prison, is agonizing. But it is nothing compared to the relief of escaping the fire, which is the guilt consuming his mind.
That's a great analogy.
He leaks through the glass, he embraces his worldly destruction because it is the only way to extinguish the fire in his soul.
Exactly. When the police finally bind him, Nikita says, "No need to ask. I did it all myself. The design was mine and the deed was mine. Take me where you like. I will say no more."
He just accepts it completely.
Look at the journey he has made. He has completely reversed his position from Act 1, where he said, "It's not my fault, that's flat." He has moved from passive evasion to absolute radical ownership of his actions.
But let me push back on this ending because it's deeply troubling if you really think about it.
Troubling how?
Nikita achieves spiritual peace. His father says God will show him mercy. But look at the collateral damage. Nikita only achieves this peace by bringing absolute, total devastation upon his family.
Well, they were already devastated morally.
But by confessing, he is sending himself to prison, yes. But he is also exposing Anisia to the law, probably sending her to prison too. And he is completely ruining Akulina's wedding. He is destroying this young girl's only chance at a stable life in this society by exposing her shame to the entire village. Is this actually a moral victory, or is Nikita just being selfish again? Is he just transferring his internal agony out into the world for everyone else to carry?
That is the most difficult question the text poses. And it depends entirely on whether you view morality through a utilitarian lens or an absolute divine lens.
Okay, explain that.
For Matrona, this is the ultimate disaster. The family is ruined, the money will be lost. But for Tolstoy, the lie was a festering wound that was poisoning everyone.
It was already toxic.
You cannot build a healthy life on top of a crushed child in a cellar. The truth is destructive, yes. It shatters their lives. But Tolstoy argues that destruction is the necessary prerequisite for any genuine spiritual rebirth.
It's the idea that a broken bone that healed wrong has to be rebroken to be set right. It's excruciating, but it's the only way to heal.
That's exactly it.
Let's pull all these threads together and look at the massive journey we've just taken. We started with a casual, self-serving lie, the claw getting caught. We saw how that minor passive sin pulled Nikita's whole soul into Matryona's trap of pragmatic evil, demonstrating how complicity destroys free will. We explored how the sudden influx of unearned wealth acted as an accelerant to their moral decay, dissolving empathy and turning human beings into commodities to be kept under a boot.
And we examine the tragedy of systemic ignorance on top of that oven, where society deliberately blinds individuals, leaving them to grope in the dark like the women Mitrich described, making their moral failures tragic and somewhat inevitable.
Right.
We witnessed the horrifying awakening of the conscience in the cellar, proving that while society might not see your sins, the self cannot escape the self. And finally, we saw the radical rejection of worldly judgment for the sake of spiritual truth, even at the cost of worldly destruction.
It's a heavy, brilliant piece of work, and it demands self-reflection. We might not be dealing in poison powders and root cellars in our daily lives, but we all have our claws.
Everyone does.
What are the small moral compromises you're making today for the sake of convenience? What are the lies you tell yourself so you don't have to face an uncomfortable truth at work or in your relationships?
Yeah. Where are you being passive?
And How might we be abstracting our own responsibilities, just like Akim accused the bankers of doing? We love to separate ourselves from the consequences of our actions as long as the outcome keeps us comfortable.
That is the enduring power of Tolstoy's philosophical analysis. He forces us to confront the fact that morality is not a grand, singular test you take once in your life.
It's every day.
It is an accumulation of tiny, seemingly insignificant choices. And if we aren't paying attention to the small choices, the claw gets caught.
And once it's caught, the bird is lost.
Yeah.
I will leave you with that final provocative thought to mull over. When you find yourself trapped in a lie or compromised by a decision you regret, how do you get out?
Good question.
Do you try to bury it in the cellar and hope the earth doesn't blab? Or do you walk barefoot into the light and shatter your own world to save your soul? We'll let you chew on that.